continuing catch up with my very, 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 very old GAC 3s, looking at the markets. Um, we're at all-time highs for the S&P. Don't be fooled by that, because there are a lot of sectors and individual stocks that are well below where they were pre-COVID. All of these gains or recoveries in the major indices are due to a select few stocks. That's not doom and gloom. That is objective. That is factual. So there's, well, on the one hand, you could say, and you'd be right, that the market is artificially propped up by the Fed, and that is true, but the Fed has to prop up the markets right now, lest we descend into a full-blown depression that would take probably a fucking generation to recover from. This recession is already going to take the better part of a decade to recover from. But that also means that there is still money to be made in the markets in a lot of comparatively healthier names that have not seen the same recovery that others have seen. I mean, there is still a lot of value out there. A lot of cyclical names and companies are still maybe 50% under where they were pre-COVID. There are certain sectors that you shouldn't touch with, a 20-foot pole. I mean, there are certain sectors and companies that I wouldn't touch with somebody else's dick. Namely, retail. Retail, movie theaters, a lot of those things are going to suck for a very, 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 very long time. A lot of those names are just going to go completely bankrupt and get delisted. Let's be real. Retail was trending downward and has been trending downward for a very long time, even without COVID. A lot of people shop online. And we've seen the numbers that online shopping has increased exponentially, of course, unsurprisingly, during COVID. But why would it revert back? I don't think it's going to revert back, certainly not entirely. Sure, yeah, some people like to, or prefer to go to a store, look at something in person. They like a much more hands-on or physical experience of shopping, whether it's for clothes or electronic devices or whatever the case. Sure, some traffic will come back to retail, but not like it was pre-COVID, and it's still trending downward significantly, so I wouldn't want to touch any of those things. There was an article that a lot of the old abandoned strip malls or full-on malls that are closed are going to be bought by Amazon, or at least rented or leased by Amazon, to be used as warehouses. That's the trajectory we are on for physical retail. And that's the trajectory we've been on for physical retail. Just COVID made it come to pass a lot sooner than anyone would have guessed or thought or wanted. It's just the way it goes. It's so easy to buy something online. And even if it's clothing, you can try it on once it comes to your house or your apartment. You try it on, it doesn't fit, you send it back. Is that inconvenient? Sure. But if it's the difference between, maybe getting sick or not getting sick, then people are going to go that way. Even with a vaccine, I think a lot of people are going to feel better, but a lot of people are going to say, okay, fine, I have my vaccine, I'm safer now, but I'm still not going to put myself at an unnecessary risk, because the vaccines, more than likely, most professionals are saying the vaccine is going to have to be an annual or even semi-annual thing. a seasonal thing like the flu vaccine. So, I wouldn't want to touch retail with a 10-foot pole. A lot of consumer services are going to have, or consumer service stocks are going to have problems. Um, I wouldn't want to own any of the food franchise stocks, maybe fast food, because that's easy to take to go or out. But like Darden Restaurants, I haven't looked at Darden Restaurants stock in a very, very long time, but Darden owns Olive Garden and Red Lobster, I think, and a bunch of, those family chains. And again, full disclosure, I haven't looked at the stock's performance recently, but I doubt that they return to pre-COVID levels ever. It's going to be very different, Dining, they're not going to be able to fill the capacity. They're going to have to renovate a lot of their restaurants to, comply with new COVID indoor dining outlines, which don't exist yet in many places, by the way, because that seems to be the common denominator in super spreaders is indoor dining. We haven't had, knock on wood, a super spreader in quite some time, but that's what the preliminary data suggests, is that a lot of the super spreader incidents have come from indoor dining and or bars. But forget about all the publicly traded companies, right? If publicly traded companies are having problems and are going to have problems for the foreseeable future, mom and pop shops are done. And that is really bad and sad, because mom and pop shops employ a metric fuck ton of the middle class. That's a lot of people without jobs. That's a lot of fucking people without jobs. Now, yes, some of those jobs will be soaked up by larger companies expanding operations to make up for the complete lack of, small town, rural mom and pop shop stores. But that's not going to account for every job. We're not going to replace these jobs one for one without a whole host of government projects. And I've said time and time again, anyone that watches my channel knows I've been about some sort of an infrastructure bill for literal months now. And even that's only temporary. Sure, it'll take the better part of a decade, if not more than a decade. But that's a lot of jobs. They're not going to be forever, but better to have a job with an expiration date than no job at all. So yeah, it's going to be tough going. Even once we get a vaccine, it is going to be tough going. Things will get better, but it is still going to be very tough for your average person. I had to take Rosie to the vet just now because she had the shits for like a week. We think it's viral. But there was a woman who very clearly was working for the Census Bureau, because I saw her going from building to building, ringing doorbells and whatever. And, I said, are you working for Census? She's like, yeah, I'm doing this for a couple of months because I work for a catering business, and obviously no one's fucking, using caterers anytime soon. And she's right. Even if there's a vaccine, people are going to be nervous. People aren't going to want to congregate in, groups of 100 at a time, unless you're in Miami Beach, because they're already doing it now. And even that, being a census worker is, almost by definition, a job with an expiration date. But it's better than nothing. So yeah, it is going to be tough going. It is really going to be tough going. Yeah. And I feel bad because, if you look at the numbers from the earnings numbers and the traffic numbers from Home Depot, Lowe's, even Best Buy, they had great numbers. Home Depot's foot traffic numbers were insane in a good way in terms of an increase. But what that means is that many fewer people were going to something that wasn't a Lowe's or a Home Depot. They weren't going to mom and pop shops, partially because they weren't open or aren't open. But they were going to Home Depot and Lowe's because that was all that was available, which is just going to put mom and pop hardware stores and DIY stores out of fucking business. And it's sad. And I own stock at Home Depot, and I've done very well with Home Depot. But I don't want to see mom and pop shops close up for good, because mom and pop shops employ millions of people. Home Depot employs a lot of people. But even Home Depot cannot make up for all of the lost jobs from all of the mom and pop hardware stores. It's just not going to happen. So things are going to be difficult. I hope everyone is, if you're out of a job, I hope you have something lined up, and I hope Congress comes through for your unemployment bonus sooner rather than later. And I said this in one of my last videos, like maybe 3 videos ago. If you're out of a job, if you're on unemployment, if you're just angry, or if just you think it's the right thing to do, because I think it is, write, email, call your congressperson, explain to them that average, ordinary Americans are suffering while they're playing chicken in Congress with the White House about this next coronavirus bill. Because while they're all on their August vacation, Congress is on vacation right now. Make no mistake. Congress is on their August vacation right now. Paid vacation. Because let's be real, Congress, whether you either or both houses, whether you're in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, you're not working 365 days a year. You get paid vacation. And they all have jobs for another point. And they all have benefits for life, mind you. They're playing chicken and they're on vacation while literal millions of ordinary Americans are running out of unemployment, are getting fired even now, are trying to decide whether they want to pay rent or buy food. In some cases, in a number of cases, they can't be evicted, so that's good. But no one likes being delinquent in payments. At least I don't think most people like that. I wouldn't. Most people would like to be able to meet their financial needs, demands, and obligations. So, how do you take care of your kids? There's no school in most states, so that's more meals that you have to provide for your kid. That's one thing that people with money totally take for granted. If your kid is home and not at school, that is at least one extra meal a day that you have to provide for your kid. And you're going to do it because it's your fucking kid, right? But a lot of poorer people rely on the public school system to not only, hopefully, educate their kids, but to feed their fucking kids. A lot of schools have even, reached out to the families and the student base and said, listen, school is obviously not happening, but we will still provide meals. That is how much so many people are stuck between a rock and a hard place. That is the degree to which people are stuck between a rock and a hard place. So write your congressperson, write your senator, write your state senator, write whomever, email, call, harass them. Make them do their fucking jobs. They're supposed to be elected by the people, for the people, right? Meanwhile, they're kicking cans down the road. They're on vacation. They're playing chicken. Like, how is this is not what government is supposed to do. Government is supposed to be representative of and provide for the people. And they're on vacation while everyone is getting fired and or going hungry. So reach out to your congressperson, because it's getting ridiculous. Both sides of the aisle, the two branches of government, executive and legislative. People need to get off their fucking asses, because people are dying, or at the very least starving, and it's a fucking problem. So please, write, email, call your congressperson, tweet. I don't give a fuck. Let them know that you're pissed. Let them know that you're hungry. Let them know that they are screwing you while they're on vacation. They came back to vote for the post office emergency funding. Speaker Pelosi called back the House of Representatives to vote on emergency funding to the post office. And she was called upon by a number of Congress people that they should vote on the next Corona stimulus bill. Didn't happen. She doesn't want to do it piecemeal. A number of people said, let's at least pass this, the unemployment bonus, as it were. Let's at least do something. She doesn't want to do it piecemeal. I'm a registered Democrat, but honestly, I don't think Nancy Pelosi is any better than the president. She's almost no different. She's like the mirror image, in a way, of the person she claims to hate the most. I can't stand her. And I'm no big AOC fan, but if you just look at how Nancy Pelosi treats AOC, a member of her own party, I mean, Pelosi's an asshole. AOC I disagree with on a number of things. She's a democratic socialist by her own admission, so that's not up my alley. But she does have points from time to time, and she is not stupid. I think she's misguided, but she is not stupid. And Pelosi's, I really can't stand her. So write your congressperson, write your senator, whomever. Because this can't go on. It can't go on like this. More people are getting laid off every week, every day. Unemployment's running out. There's no jobs. So Congress needs to do something. So get them off their asses.